creatures, and in their artistic works, they don't want to say what is beauty, and how beauty is connected with me. Beauty has connection with God, not with me. I just unveil it, if it's proper term, I use it. It is just unveiling. It is not a finding of man. It is the unveiling of the truth. I don't know whether...
Yes, it's helpful. Thank you.
We know in Islamic mysticism that there are too many stages in the way of perfectness and in the spiritual realization. For example, there is the famous sentence, every Gnostic is Sufi, but not every Sufi is Gnostic.
Yes.
So if we understand well this sentence, we see that after all, when we speak about this spiritual realization, we know that in the beginning we speak about the way from the man to God.
Yes.
But after all, we see that some Sufis, some Arifs, talk about about the real realization when the difference between subject and object is annihilated.
Yes.
And for example, Mullah Sadr talked about the fourth journey.
Yeah.
With God in the creature, in the world. So I'd like to listen your explanation about this difference, which is the criteria, after all, to say that one is Arif, and why at the same time we must express that every Arif is Sufi, but not every Sufi is Arif.
Yes.
Can we...
You want to know? Yes. You know, I started with reminding that in Islamic mysticism, is not anti-intellectual as the Christian mysticism nowadays we see. I mean, after the Middle Ages, you will see, you will find Meister Eckhart to be a mystic philosopher. But when in the modern age, you will not find mystic and an intellectual to be together. So it's a difficult job to find. Okay, Sufi is a traveler along the path to God. One who take the journey of, as you said, min al-khalq ila al-haq, the journey from the word of creation to the truth with a capital T. But when he comes to the station of Irfan is a station. Irfan is gnosis. When he comes to the station of gnosis, then he becomes Arif. It does not necessarily mean that every Sufi should be Arif. But according to Sufi authorities, every Arif is a Sufi because he had traveled in the same path that Arif usually travels. So the distinction they make, you will see in the Tazkiratul Awliya by Attar, that he says there are Sufis who were not Arif, and there were Arif, but every Arif should necessarily be a Sufi. This distinction of Irfan and Tasawwuf that nowadays you see is something completely new. Irfan, Gnosis, Arif, Knower, Gnostic were terms which were used only in the Sufi books. you will not find them. When I say Sufi books, I include also Mullah Sadra because I consider him to be a Sufi philosopher. Not me. People, the historians consider him. What do you see nowadays? They say that he's a Sufi, and Irfan has nothing to do with the Sufi. It's completely new. And it has started from the middle Safavid. Because there were currents against Sufism, the term Sufism, Tasawwuf, found a pejorative meaning.
Sorry. And after that, who is the traveler? Some Sufis says that even the traveler is who? Is God himself. From the beginning to the end, and from the end to the beginning, there is no one than one.
Yes.
You know that Ibn Arabi says in the treatise of Ahadiyya.
Yeah.
From the beginning, he's the one that comes from him to him, and after that returns from him to him. And there is no one than he.
Yes. Okay.
From the beginning to the end, and to the end from the beginning, there is no one than one.
Yes, this is what Ibn Arabi calls Safar fil haqq bil haqq. Journey in God with God. Yes, this is the perfect annihilation. But if your question is that, then who is Arif at this stage? Is this your question?
My first question was, which is the criteria to say that one is Arif?
There is no criterion. There is no criterion comes from the reason. When the reason doesn't work there, because you don't know yourself, who you are. In the Divan-e-Shams, in the poems of Maulana, not the Mathnavi, in his ghazals, you will say many times Maulana say, who am I? Am I him? Is he me? Who is he? You will see many verses like this. This is what they call the station of Hayrah. So Hayrah, station of his. So nobody knows who is he. But this question comes raised when you are talking in the by the criterion of the reason, intellect. But they said there would be no reason. He doesn't know himself who is he. So then how he can say what is the criterion? You see, the same question in Tazkiratul Awliya by Attar. Someone asked Bayazid. He said, when you reach there, you will understand it. So then, but you know they use the image of a beloved and the beloved. They said the union of the beloved, the union of lover and the beloved. How can define it? How can you say that who is Ashiq, the lover, and who is the beloved when they are engaged together? When you cannot say in the stage of Ishq how you can define who is the lover and who is the beloved. We will see in Masnavi when he is talking about Layli and Majnun. Sometimes Layli said, Man kiyam Layli yo, Layli kist man. Maulana says, he says that Majnun says, Man kiyam, who am I? Majnun, the mad, who am I? And who is Layli? We are the same spirit in the two bodies.
Can we say that in the beginning we can say Sufi is the man who says that he's, for example, Majnun and Almighty is Layla. But Arif says that he is the same time, Arif, he says that he's at the same, and in Majnun and Layla there is no one than one.
Yes.
This is Arif.
This is Arif.
This understand that subject and object is the same.
Yes.
But Sufi can say, I'm traveling from to. But in the reality, there is no from to. There is oneness in oneness. Yani huwa is huwa. Yani he is he. There is no opposition. There is no transcendence and no immanent. Immanent and transcendent is
for the Arif.
Bali.
Yes, for the Arif it is the same. But I mentioned, Ibn Arabi says that we need this tanzih. Why we need this tanzih? Because we live in the Word. And living in the Word necessitates that we should say, I am one and he is the other. You cannot say in the state of divine madness, because in the state of madness, divine madness, there is no intellect, no reason. Then how the word can be managed? There is a story in the Masnavi by Rumi that someone asked Moses that is it possible that just for one day Satan leaves the word? He says, okay, but you will see bad results from this. He asked. So God took Satan for just one day from the word. And he said that now look at the word. It was destroying. And Maulana say, Ustan alam ey jan qaflat ast. Hushyari in jahan ra afat ast. Ustan is the pillar. Pillar of this word is negligence of the worldly affairs. And this is what this is why Maulana uses the worldly reason, instrumental reason. And he says we need it. Yes.
The Marv says that this is the will of God to be like this.
Yes.
Alam.
Yes.
Yani the world as a manifestation, as a possibility of manifestation. كنت كنزا مخفيا فأحببت أن أعرف. Yani I am a hidden treasure.
Yeah.
And I want to see myself.
Yes.
فخلقت الخلق. Yani the creature, I have manifested the creature to see myself in the creature.
Yes.
For this, we can say that all world is a manifestation, is a necessity to as a mirror, as theophany, that this is the possibility for Almighty to see Himself in the mirror of world. But the world is as such is only theophany. There is no world has no real existence. Some Arifs says that only imagination.
Yeah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I will continue on the topic of main characteristics of the Sufi intellectual tradition. And now I come to the issue of self-understanding. If the Islamic Sufi intellectual tradition has any help to offer to the modern predicament, it seems to be that it lies in the call to recover for ourselves, each of us individually, what a proper understanding of our own nature. Otherwise, dogmatism and ideology cannot be avoided. The fundamental insight of this tradition is that in order to know the proper way of acting in the world and living out our human embodiment, we must know what a word signifies to us. In order to know the significance of things, we must know our own nature and our own proper destiny. In order to know our own nature, we must know the self that knows. I mean, the cosmos, self, and God. This is the main the Trinity in the Sufi intellectual thought, that and how they are related together, and how knowing each of them is a requisite for understanding the other. If you want to know who you are, self-understanding, you should know the word. And if you want to know the world, you should know yourself. And if you want to know about Him, God, you should know yourself and the world. They are inseparable. The point that is typically forgotten in discussions of who we are is that we cannot know the knowing self as object, only as subject. We cannot truly know ourselves except when object and subject are indistinguishable. The unity of knower and known, of self and word, of man and God is the ultimate insight of Tawheed according to Sufi intellectuality. It is this alone that gives human, I should add also, the unity of the lover and the beloved according to Rumi. These were according to Ibn Arabi. I will add this. It is this alone that gives human beings the ability to see things as truly are, to recognize the huquq, the rights of God, people and things, and to act properly in response to the rights of God and the rights of man. Haqqullah and Haqqun Nas. Well, now I come to the issue of cosmos and soul. Thus, in the traditional Sufi view of things, one cannot disengage the study of the soul from cosmology. Of course, everyone recognizes that pre-modern Islamic psychology has much to do with theology, since Islam agrees with the Judeo-Christian tradition in holding that man was created in the divine image. But nowadays, the cosmic dimension of Islamic psychology is difficult to understand and easy to ignore, not least because cosmology in the West has long since been delivered over to natural science. Most contemporary Muslim thinkers, in their eagerness to prove Islam's respectability in modern times, have ignored or attacked those Islamic teachings on the cosmos and human beings that are difficult to reconcile with the contemporary worldview. They do so by ignoring the commentarial tradition and interpreting the Quran in terms of their own immersion in ideology and scienticism. Others have appealed to Kalam, the most rationalistic form of Islamic theology, and the least, this is an important point, and the least concerned with the nature of God's ontological relationship with the universe. This is an important issue in the Sufi intellectual thought, the ontological relation of God with the universe. Kalam is, and you know that in Kalam nobody believes this, in the ontological relation, and it is one of the items that usually mutakallimun, the theologians, accuse Sufis to holding this view. Kalam is polemical and voluntarist, devoted to attacks on any form of thought that is deemed to threaten God's absolute legal authority, God's radical transcendence. It asserts God's radical transcendence and argues for human responsibility before the revealed law. Educated Muslims generally nowadays see things in terms of the worldview that has informed the Western tradition since the beginning of the modern period. This worldview is grounded in a mathematical, empirical epistemology, and its net result has been the objectification of the cosmos. This term of objectification of the cosmos is a usual term in the philosophy of science. In the contemporary debates, you will see, I can cite and refer you to the Martin Heidegger. It's one of the main issues in Heidegger when he talks about the objectification of the cosmos. Objectification necessitates the subjectification of man. When you objectify the cosmos, you subjectify the man. So the relation between man and the cosmos becomes a new relation. A new relation. That is completely contrary to the Sufi attitude towards this relation. So I will discuss it. The word, according to objectification of the cosmos, the word and all its contents, including human beings, in most of their roles have been turned into isolated objects standing in ontological, spiritual, and moral vacuums. It's not just the word that turns to be an object. It is the other, the concept of the other. They also become the object. The object, and that in a way you want to control them, to manipulate the word according to this objectification of the word. It's a very important issue in the philosophy of science, and it has nothing to do only with the Sufi intellectual, but you will find the contrary view in the Sufism. If you want to see what is the contrary view to the modern view of subject-object relation in the world, you will find this man and cosmos in Sufi intellectuality. One of the fruits of Sufi intellectual learning was to understand, or rather to see and realize, that the so-called object out there and the subject in here are essentially the same. This is the contrary view. They are the same. To think of the two as separate is to falsify the meaning of cosmos and soul, to distort the relation between things and self. Such falsifications inevitably lead to wrong relationships with self, people, and the world. The very structure of the intellectual quest in Sufism stressed not only the achievement of right knowledge through the unification of subject and object, or knower and the known, or the lover and the beloved, according to different terminology, but also the actualization of sound moral character and the cultivation of virtue. The quest aimed at overcoming the soul's self-centeredness. Subjectivism is, in other words, the self-centeredness. And you will see that in Masnavi of Maulana Rumi, how is he quarreling with this self-centeredness.